Can I make a game in a month as a complete beginner? More importantly, will I enjoy it? My name is Nick, and I'm spending a year trying 12 different creative hobbies in the hopes of finding one that I can stick to. 6 of which are things I've tried before, and the other 6 are completely new to me. Last month, I tried watercolor again, and this month I'm trying game design for the very first time. What goes into making a video game? Well, you need an idea, an engine to build it in, scripts to define the interactions, art to have something to look at, an interface so a player can interact with the game, and preferably sound or music to enhance the experience. Let's start with the idea. At the beginning of the month, I was planning on making 2 different games. One during the first half of the month to dip my toes in the water, and a second one during this year's GMTK Game Jam. If you don't already know, a game jam is a competition where participants, either solo or in a team, make a game that fits within the theme in a specified amount of time. The GMTK Jam lasts only 4 days. I think that's a perfectly reasonable goal for someone with no experience. Since I was planning on joining that jam, I figured it would be smart to use last year's theme, Loop, as inspiration for that first game. You know that trope in movies and TV shows where someone will tie a string around their finger to remember something? I never understood that as a kid, but I do a sort of analog of that now. If I need to remember to take the clothes out of the washer and put them in the dryer, for example, I'll do something like block the hallway with a chair or the empty hamper to remind myself to do that. Essentially, you just put something in a place it wouldn't normally be that you know you'll have to interact with, and as long as you do that with the thing you're supposed to remember in mind, then it should jog your memory. I haven't tried the string method yet, but I think I understand it now. So we'll say that the loop in my game is the loop tied around your finger. Now let's say you're a forgetful handyman. You walk into a client's house to find out what the issues are. Then you need to go back to your truck to gather tools for each job, but you don't know what tools you need because you can't remember what the jobs were. So you tie loops around your fingers to remember each task. Maybe there are some roguelike elements and the loops have their own modifiers. Let's say you pick the electrical tape loop to remember to change a light bulb, and suddenly the light bulbs are screwed in with one turn. Or you pick the shoelace loop to remember to repair a hole in the wall, and you're super fast in the house now. Maybe there's even a shop where you can buy upgraded tools. You get the lucky hammer and you never miss a nail. Or you get the power plunger and you're plunging toilets in a single motion. Now let's come back down to earth. I don't know how to do any of that, and I only have a month to figure it out, but it is an idea. So now we can continue with the basics. I've already decided that whatever I do will be 2D, and I'll be using Godot to build it. Godot, Unity, and Unreal are all free and all very powerful engines, but based on what I've seen, Godot seems like the most user-friendly. Godot also has its own programming language, GDScript. So in addition to learning this new editor, I would have to learn this new language as well. Luckily for me, the brilliant minds over at GDQuest have put together a beginner's guide for the language called GDScript from Zero. I spent a few days leisurely completing this guide, but you could easily finish this in a day if you had the time. There are, of course, some things very specific to Godot that I learned, but I think the more important pieces are the things that are used in basically every programming language. Things like variables, functions, conditionals, and loops. If you don't know what those are, variables allow you to store data and access it later, or update it with new data. Functions are just instructions for the computer, or more specifically in this case, for Godot. Conditionals do something based on whether or not a statement is true, and loops do something until you tell them not to. These are incredibly watered down definitions, but if you're curious about learning more, that beginner's guide is a great place to start. The next logical step after consuming a bunch of information is putting it to use. GDScript also has a free tutorial to teach you how to make a game like the well-loved roguelike shoot-'em-up Vampire Survivors. Following the tutorial was easy enough, but understanding what's happening is a very different story. Like pretty much all tutorials, you benefit the most if you can make your own edits and additions. I spent a while staring at the scripts trying to make sense of what I had just copied, and once I had a handle on it, I spent a little more time trying to make the enemies spawn exponentially. Okay, last night I was finishing up the Vampire Survivors tutorial, and I think I figured out, the audio for that was horrible. What I was trying to do was figure out a way to make the mobs spawn in an increasing frequency. I think I figured it out. I had to look at the documentation. Dude, I got it. Watch this. Somehow I muted the mic, but I got it kind of working. So basically, you can see, so look at that, 4.5, and then it's gonna go down to 4. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this works, but it doesn't work great. So we're gonna create an integer count. Once the count gets to 20, then we'll set count to 0. That is to be expected. Once we get to 20 though, it should, or it would be 21. Once we get 21, this should go to 0.9. There it is. Dude, this is crazy. I'm gonna probably speed this up. I'm gonna sit here and watch the number go down. Well, wasn't paying attention. That probably doesn't sound like much, but to me in the moment, I felt like a genius. At this point, I was already coming up with ideas for enemies and upgrades and weapons, and thought that I might just spend the month making this game better. I could probably even write like a wave situation where you have to kill 100 slimes or something. I think it would not be very difficult to make like a power up either. Like I could put a power up on the same like spawn situation, so it's like once every like 20 or 30 seconds. Or maybe I can make penetrating bullets or something that remove the Q-free on collision detection. Like if I could get faster fire rates or increase the range. Dude, this is okay. I'm gaming. Yeah, this is cool. But solving a couple of problems only proved to give me an undeserved feeling of confidence, so I decided to press on anyway. Now, with my newfound education of the editor and language, it was time to take on the big one. I don't think I'm going to explain this very well. Like, let's say this is level 1. You come in the house, first room you go into, and it's a toilet. And you go, okay, I need the plunger. You can use a memory loop. So, like, let's say you find the toilet, and then, like, a hand pops up, and you have, like, loops that you can choose from. So you do this, and then you get to the shop. So I'm writing with my mouse. Okay, so you can like choose better tools or better loops, right? And like all of this would be like permanent, and then there's also maybe consumable stuff, so like a energy drink. Maybe you don't move faster, but time just slows down or something. Like I'll call it like time dilation, or I'll just say time slows. That's the idea. If you've somehow forgotten, I don't know what I'm doing, but I do know that I need a player and somewhere for the player to move around. I have some ideas that I think could benefit from grid-based movement, so I got started on that first. The Godot documentation and community were my saviors throughout the month. AI was not consulted a single time for anything in this project. Even if I was just using Google and AI results popped up, I just scrolled past them. I would rather be bad at something and figure it out myself than ask AI for help. Also, big shout out to kidscancode.org for the quick tutorial on grid-based movement. The next thing I tried to tackle was creating a space for the player to interact with to trigger things like task collection and loop selection. At this point though, I was already getting overwhelmed and it was nearly halfway through the month, so I decided to phone a friend. My buddy Anthony went to school for game development and is an experienced programmer, so I asked him what he thought of my idea and how to proceed. Pretty immediately he said, in a nice way, that my idea was way too ambitious for the amount of time I had, and that I would have to cut quite a lot from the original plan to have anything to show at the end of the month. Originally, I was just going to ask him some questions about what to do next, but by the end of the call, I'd somehow recruited him to help on the game. We started dropping some cards in a Trello board, and I got to work on some temporary art for the level while Anthony was figuring out a much smarter way to do the task collection and loop selection. Obviously, I come from an art and design background, and he comes from a programming background, but we wanted to give each other room to do both. I really wanted to see what I could do with my newfound coding knowledge, and he wanted to give art an honest try. So most of our time was spent equally in Godot and our art programs of choice. Okay, I don't know the last time that I actually recorded, or that I gave an update, so let's go through some things. First off, since I last was here, my headphones broke. This strap broke. I got a haircut, and I've recruited another person. So you guys know this is my first time trying to like fully design a video game, and I fully intended to do it on my own, but that's not feasible. So today is July 17th, and it is looking like I'm gonna be lucky if this is playable at all. So let me take you through the new. The concept isn't new; it's the same concept, but I fleshed out the drawing a bit more. When I left you guys last time, I think this was kind of all that I drew. It's like on this side. Let's go over here, dude. What's going on? So that's pretty close to what we're going for. This is the updated design doc. Let me show you the updated Godot project. It ain't much to look at, but let's run the scene. This is some art and a menu made by my friend Anthony. Thank you, Anthony, for joining me. So we've still got a long way to go, but we're having fun. That I will say. Let me emphasize that this is an incredibly fun process. So here we are. And the idea is that as you enter the rooms, they are revealed to you. So boom. Dude, we're in the first room. And what is this on the floor? A broken light bulb? Oh, it doesn't actually do anything yet. Let's check this room. We've got to hang a picture in here. Because I made this, I know that there's one more. It's not in here. We go up. That's a toilet with a plunger in it. We have got to plunge that toilet. Oh my goodness. And then if we take a look here, this is something Anthony put together. We've got a little sneak peek at the QuickTime event. So you got to hammer this nail at the right time. Are you kidding me? That's incredible. Somewhere over here, there it is. These are going to be your loops that you get to choose from with their own modifiers even. If you fail, you can use another nail. Awesome. So it's coming along. With such a short timeline, we figured it would be wisest to pivot to the mini games or QuickTime events that happen when you actually have to complete the tasks. We settled on 3 for this initial effort: changing a light bulb, hanging a picture, and plunging a toilet. Anthony made a working prototype for hanging the picture, then he worked on the light bulb while I worked on the toilet. And wouldn't you have guessed it, this took a lot longer than I was expecting. Okay, today is the 22nd, and I don't know the last time I made a little update, so we're going to just jump right into it. I don't even remember what I shared last time. Anthony's been amazing. He threw together some grass for us because we got tired of looking at this gray screen and we were working on the level. Nothing here has really changed. We've got some areas, so we can detect when the player is arriving on the events. There's one test event. This is our test for the loops, which I don't think has seen much progress since I last showed it. I can't remember. We've kind of shifted a little bit and are moving now towards these little mini games, the micro games that you play after you collect your tasks. This was us brainstorming for the QuickTime events. We have a QuickTime event for the hammering the nail. Anthony made this art with some fun little options. That is this is our fail. Actually, if you swing too hard or you miss the nail, you'll crack the picture frame. And then I've been working on the toilet, where you plunge the toilet. I am very proud of my toilet though. Like everything else in this project, it took a lot of troubleshooting to get it to work correctly. The largest hurdle was trying to give the plunger a boundary to move in when the player drags it around so it didn't break the illusion of the toilet. It took trying several different approaches, but I managed to find something that was pretty simple. It ended up only being a few lines of code, but it was a huge moment for me because it was the first thing I truly figured out all on my own. After that, Anthony got loops to pop up when you walk over the task, and even created modifiers for the picture task. Meanwhile, I was creating a UI element to show you what task you had collected. So you have a HUD now with a horrible hand placeholder, but then also on the right side over here, I can turn. This is not the right way to do this, by the way, but July has not been about doing it right. July has just purely been about doing it. Things were honestly going pretty well, but by this point in the month, the GMTK Jam had already started, and there was no way I'd be able to participate. Anthony was also about to have to move on, so it would just be me trying to finish things up. I was planning to spend the remainder of my free time for the month cleaning up as much UI and making as much art as I could. Even though I didn't have much time left, I think I was still a little delusional about how much cleanup I could actually do. Clearly it isn't polished, but I was able to cross a lot of things off my list and be okay with the state it ended up in. There's a laundry list of things I still want to do, but it will unfortunately have to wait. So was it possible for me to make a game in a month as a complete beginner? It was definitely possible. I could have made a game in a month. I could have made a short platformer or something, or even finished that tutorial game. I could have even done things like use existing assets to speed up the process. But could I make this game in a month? Absolutely not. But with Anthony's help, we got a lot closer. I definitely wouldn't call it a game, but it is technically playable. Maybe it's just a little more than a prototype. So overall, I think we chalk this one up as plausible. Also, I cannot thank Anthony enough for his help this past month. He really was the difference between this being just a rough idea and a tangible experience. I have to say though, this was never about completing the game. I did genuinely think I could do it, but only because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. What this was really about was finding out if this hobby is something that I genuinely enjoy and want to stick to. I had an absolute blast this month. I was nearing burnout from the short timeline I put on myself, But making art for the game and learning about programming was so much fun, and I cannot wait to jump back into this project. There are still way too many hobbies left to try out to say if this is going to be the hobby, but I can confidently say it's leading the pack. If you've been thinking about making a game, or making anything for that matter, but don't know where to start, just jump in. There are so many free resources to learn from and so many kind people online to give you a hand. It has never been more accessible or easier to just make something. If you do decide to try this out, I urge you not to be enticed by the shortcuts offered by AI. The most human thing you can do is use your own brain to think and create. It may seem faster and more convenient, and you may even knock out a game pretty quickly, but you'll be robbing yourself of a chance to learn a new skill or how to solve new problems. Do yourself a favor and try it the hard way, and I promise it'll be a much more fulfilling experience. If you do want to play what we made this month, there's a link to itch in the description. I do intend to come back to this, so please leave a comment if you think of something cool that you'd like to see added in the future. But otherwise, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.